guys, I'm Laura Vitale, and on this episode of Laura in the Kitchen, by popular demand over the past 4.5 years, we're making a Black Forest cake. Now, keep in mind that this is just my version of a Black Forest cake, and it's really made out of a few different components. You need to have a really deeply chocolatey, delicious chocolate cake, and then there's going to be like a cherry syrup and then a whipped cream topping, and it really is to your Thanksgiving dessert table, and it's really easy to make. We're going to start with the cake batter, with the cake mix, which is going to be the same as my devil's food cake because it's really deep and chocolatey, and it's just a perfect cake to go along with everything. And the ingredients you'll need for that are very basic. Like in my devil's food cake, you'll start with some all-purpose flour, cocoa powder, salt, baking soda, and baking powder, granulated sugar, eggs, unsalted butter softened at room temperature, vanilla, milk, water, and instant coffee. Those are the ingredients you'll need to make the cake, and then I'll show you the syrup and the cream and the cherries and all that when the time comes. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The first thing you want to do is get your oven preheated to 350. What I've also done is I've taken a 10-inch cake pan. What I actually use is a springform pan. It makes it really easy. Spray with nonstick spray. I laid the bottom with some parchment paper, and I set it aside. Can you tell I'm excited? I'm in the holiday season here, folks. I got a lot of cooking going on. I got to share it with as much as I can with you. So let me get started. Stop chit-chatting. In my saucepan, in here, I'm going to add my water. And then I'm going to add my milk. And last but not least, the instant coffee. I'm going to put this on the stove, bring it to a simmer, and then let it steep for a few minutes so that it can cool down. I brought my mixture to a simmer and then immediately turned it off, and I'm going to set it aside to cool slightly. And in the meantime, we're going to get going on working on the actual, batter, the remaining batter. Now, in my standing mixer, I have it fitted with a pedal attachment. I'm going to add my butter, and it's crucial, it's crucial that your butter is at room temperature. You don't want it to be cold, you want it to be really soft and creamy. And to that, I'm going to add my granulated sugar. Seems like a lot, but just keep in mind, this is a really rich cake that you make once in a while. It's kind of like a masterpiece. It's perfect for the holiday season or any special occasion you might have, you might have around the corner, I guess. Maybe a birthday, an anniversary, you name it. I'm going to cream these together until they're really nice and fluffy, and then we'll add a couple more ingredients. I'm going to lower this down because it's really important that I get all that stuff that's stuck on the sides. I want to get that all off of there. And now I'm going to add in, get off of there. Now I'm going to add in my eggs along with a good splash of vanilla. Get the really good stuff. Don't even go with the imitation stuff. Otherwise, I'll have to question our friendship here. You know how I feel about that. A little bit of that. You don't need a lot because really this is not a vanilla cake. It's like a really deep, delightful chocolate cake, but a little vanilla. I need it, okay? It's like air. I need it at all times when it comes to baking. I'm gonna mix this until it's really nice and fluffy, and then we'll get going on adding our last ingredients. But at this point, I'm just gonna take a spoon and mix my dry ingredients together just briefly to get them combined. That's good enough. And when we are ready for it, we'll introduce everything to each other. Gorgeous. Now don't forget, a little scraperoo, really important. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add half of my dry ingredients. Look at that. Maybe a little bit more than half. And a little bit goes on the counter, It's not a party until you got dry ingredients going all over the place. And half of my liquid. Get this mixed together, and then we'll add in the remaining half. And again, if some of the dry ingredients makes it onto your counter, your burner, your pot, probably on the floor, on yourself, in the air, it's all good. You're making a cake. It's all good. Make sure you just give this a really good mix before get everything out, because you know how it is. Stuff gets stuck on the side, on the bottom, and I want to make sure everything gets really incorporated. I don't want to see any bits and pieces left behind. I'm going to pour this into my prepared pan. Get that all out of there. Look at that gorgeous, gorgeous batter. Take a bath in that. Okay, trying to get it all out, as much of it as possible, because this is going to make one magnificent looking cake. Okay, give that a good zhuzh. Get it off your spatula. Tap, tap, just so that you can get any air bubbles will come out. Pop this into the oven at 350. It'll be in there for about 40 to 45 minutes. Insert a toothpick in the center. If it comes out clean after about 40-45 minutes, then you know it's done. And then you need to let it cool completely. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna bake this baby off. I'm gonna clean up, get myself a cup of coffee, and then we'll get going on making the filling and then the topping, and it's gorgeous. While my cake is cooling, it baked for about 45 minutes, and I'm letting it cool on a wire rack on the table over there that you can't see. We are gonna get going on making the syrup. Now, the first thing I want to talk to you about is about the cherries that I am using. Now, there are as many variations of this cake as there are fish in the sea. There is just no one way of doing it. Everyone has their own spin on it. Some people use cherry pie filling, and you certainly can. Some people just use fresh chopped cherries thrown in there, and you can do that as well. My preferred cherry to use is a sour cherry, because I think you have the intensely sweet, rich cake, that velvety sweet cream. I need a little bit of something tart to kind of balance it all out. So I like to use some sour cherries. Now, they come in a variety of cherries. This is a little bit of cherry brandy and some granulated sugar. That is it. Now, if you were my grandmother, she would skip the simple syrup and just douse the cake in cherry brandy. I'm not gonna do that because I don't want people stumbling out of here. I want them to still remember the evening. So I'm gonna make a syrup and just add a little bit of cherry brandy to it. In my saucepan, I am going to add my water and my cherry juice. And I'm also going to add in my sugar. And all I'm gonna do is cook these together long enough for the sugar to dissolve. And if you don't feel comfortable using alcohol, skip the cherry brandy. Completely skip it. I'm going to add a little bit to it because I do like that little bit of kick and that warmth in the back of your throat, but you can totally skip it. I'm going to cook these together until the sugar melts. We'll add in the brandy, and then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, this has been simmering for just a couple of minutes, and now I'm going to let this cool pretty much completely, and then we'll add the cherry brandy, and I'm going to get my cake and get ready to start layering. Now, to my cooled syrup, I'm going to add in my cherry brandy, and now that is just going to sit aside for just a few minutes while we work on everything else. Now, my cake has completely cooled. Traditionally, and I've also cut it in half. Now, traditionally, for a Black Forest cake, you have a three-layer cake. Now, trying to get Laura Vitale to cut a cake into 3 layers is like, I'm trying to think of something really, it's like a football player trying to crawl into a dollhouse. Doesn't happen. It doesn't work. It looks funny. It looks silly. It's just an all-around hot mess. So I just prefer to cut it in half. It tastes exactly the same. So why put myself through the stress of trying to cut 3 perfect layers? But if you have the skill to pay the bills and cut this cake into 3 layers, I applaud you. And I'm very envious of you, but I don't. And I make no apologies for it. It's just something that I'm not born with, is the ability to cut a cake into thirds. So I've got my cake. Look how beautiful that is, by the way. It's fantastic. Now I've got some sweetened whipped cream here. I've whipped some heavy cream with some confectioner's sugar, and this looks like a lot of cream, but that's because I'm using it for a different recipe as well. So you need it twice, do it all one time. Now I cheated a little bit. What I have here are some drained maraschino cherries, because look how much brighter these are than these ones. Now these are going to taste much better than these in the cake, but I'm going to just decorate the top with these, so I felt like it. But I'm going to set them aside for just a minute while we work on everything else. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this simple syrup mixture and liberally, and I do mean liberally, brush this all over the surface of your cake. If you were cutting this in thirds, you would just do the same thing I'm doing with this first layer. You would do it again. So it's really simple and really, really easy. And if you recreate this cake, you're you better post a picture on social media because I am nosy like that and I want to see how it looks. Now, I'm going to get that really nice and soaked. If you wanted to skip the simple syrup, you could just use a little bit of maraschino cherry juice or the juice of your candied cherries. Take some of these cherries, kind of strain out the juice if you can, and scatter them all over. Now, what I'm doing is I just took my top layer, I just flipped it upside down, and I am going to just add a little bit of the syrup to the side as well, because that's just part of what makes it so delightful. So good. And then place this top down like that. And then, because one can never have too much cherry brandy syrup, I do like to just put a little tiny bit on top. Not a lot though, just a little bit. Now, you see what I'm doing here? I'm putting a thin layer of my whipped cream on my cake. I'm not going all around the edges, and you'll see why in just a minute. But right now, you just have to trust me. I know what you're thinking. Trust an Italian from Jersey, it just sounds like a bad idea. But we got this. Now I'm going to take some more of my cherries. Again, just try to squeeze out the juice. Right? And don't worry if they don't look perfect, because no one's going to really see them. And you'll see why in just a minute. Now, on my website at laurainthekitchen.com, this recipe and the instructions are written as if you were to cut this cake into thirds, because I'm assuming all of you are not as incompetent as I am when it comes to cutting a cake into thirds. That's all. Now, this looks fantastic. Now, what I'm going to do is I have some of my whipped cream in a piping bag that I have fitted with a star tip. I put in here way more than I should have, so now I can't close it. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to make rosettes all around your cake. And you're going to cover those cherries. Now I just place these beautiful red cherries kind of all around the top. And these are really for just decoration. That's it and that's all. Nothing fancy about it. But if they did have a stem, that would be even nicer. So I'm going to have to call the manufacturers that make these and tell them a thing or two about a thing or two. Because listen, when you're using these for decorations, you want them to have the stem on it. That's all I'm saying. Now, because I can't help myself and I'm in a bit of a rowdy mood today, I'm going to take it one step further and do some chocolate shavings. You got a problem with that? I don't think you do. I'm going to bar chocolate. Now, I'm even going to go crazier and do two kinds, dark chocolate and white chocolate. Take a big sharp knife, put your chocolate on a clean kitchen towel, and just run it back until you get some good curls. They don't have to be perfect. The chocolate factory president is not coming to your house and judging your curls, because if he was, he would give me a Z or a 0. What's a really bad grade? Like an A minus? No. Anyway, point is, the worst grade you could possibly get is what I would get. Gotta put on there evenly. Oh, is that pretty? This is my kind of art. Okay, I'm gonna switch my chocolate to my white one, even though I broke this opening it, but it's okay. Cake pedestal. I always put pieces of parchment paper on the sides, and people say, why do you do that? Well, because I like a nice and tidy, clean cake pedestal when my cake is done. So this is what you do. Just peel it right off, making sure your cake doesn't go with it. And now all the mess, if there was any chocolate frosting or anything, would have stayed right on that. But because this is powdered sugar and stuff like that, chances are some of it is going to be left behind, but that's okay. Now, to me, this is the most glorious looking Black Forest cake in the entire world and universe. But now the bad news. This baby has to chill in the fridge for a minimum of 3 hours, or you can even do it the night before. Now make sure that your whipped cream is whipped to really stiff peaks, otherwise it will start to kind of melt and fall apart. That's why mine, as you can see, is staying beautifully put. And even though we have a lot of hot lights in here, it's really important. Now, I don't want you to sit here for the next 3.5 hours while, waiting for this to cool, because it's not going to look any different. It's all in the flavor that's going to make the biggest difference. So I'm going to be a little bit naughty, just a little bit. because I don't have people coming for a little bit longer, I'm just gonna cut a little piece in the back from behind because it's my mouth is what I just need it. I need it. I need a little tiny piece. Now it's gonna taste, I'm telling you, 10 times better once you allow this to set. But this to me, mm, 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 mm. You see nothing. That hole back there, you see nothing. You heard nothing. You saw nothing. I'll blame it on somebody else. That is so good. It would knock somebody's socks off. Okay. Make this. Share a picture with me. Place it on your beautiful holiday table. Enjoy it as much as we are going to enjoy it. I'm going to pop this into the fridge. Go to laurainthekitchen.com to get the recipe. I hope you enjoy spending time with me, and I will see you next time. Bye. Ooh. Well, this is going to be really hard to explain. Yeah, that's a little bit of a problem. Do you have any duct tape?